morning, everybody! It is Monday, November the 4th, 2019. Welcome back to Mr. Video Games, the live super show brought to you by Deadspin Entertainment. Everybody, clap your hands, say, yeah, it's another night here for Mr. Video Games. Of course, I'm Slacker Kite. I'm the guy who drive the video moving things and the guy who put words on monitor. But of course, I'm never alone here, am I? Never alone. They never leave me alone. First off, joining me today, he liked Death Stranding, alright? Back when they called it Getting Over It, it's Brian, a.k.a. Wonderboy.
Okay, one, I take offense to that. Getting over it is nothing compared to what we have seen. So I'm not going to get overly excited. I haven't played the game yet. I wish I had played the game by now. I wish I could give my take, but that's not going to happen until next week because we are on the countdown to Death Stranding Day for us, the plebeians that don't get a review copy. Shout out Kojima Productions. Anywho.
I feel like everyone else in the world has played this game but us already. Like, everyone already has a fully formed feeling on this game but us.
Yes. I mean, honestly, considering the dearth of reviews out there, yes, a lot of people do. And I am trying not to take in not that much, but just enough to be able to speak about it today because it's part of my job. Second thing, has now left my brain because I am all on Death Stranding. Oh wait, I remember now. It was Death Stranding related. I wanted to open the show by playing I'll Keep Coming, but I do not want us to get hit with a copyright strike. Shout out Twitch. So what up? I'll keep coming. Me, Brian, your boy.
Over and over again. I'm for it. I'm here with it. And, of course, you can squish her levels all you like. You'll still be a noob next to her. It's Lindsay K. Lady Merowin.
Now, levels, is this a euphemism for something?
Why would I ever use a euphemism? I know people that speak in metaphors. They're cowards.
I'm a writer. I speak in metaphors all the time. What are you saying about me right now?
Calling you a coward live on air, Brian. Or how do you defend that?
I'll keep coming.
Okay.
Yes.
Brian.
So that's basically, I've annoyed everybody that I know with that so far. So it's been fun.
Brian, how's your week been? How you doing?
It's been okay. It's been eventful. It's been full of watching. Yes, yesterday's bad guy. That is a good thing to tune in for here on the Mr. Video Game Super Show.
Yeah, that will totally keep us on the Twitch all the time.
I don't know. Switch it over to IRL, and I'm sure they'll be perfectly fine with it. Anywho, no, it's been eventful. A lot of wrestling related stuff that I've been covering. Haven't done as much game coverage because of all of that happening. Just Google Saudi Arabia WWE and you'll see my entire weekend. But other than that, I've been playing a little bit of stuff here and there. Nothing really new per se. I watched my partner play Entitled Goose Game for the first time, and that made me laugh. And then they watched me start up Last of Us Remastered because they they can't really handle the scary on their own. So they wanted me to play it and so they could watch it. And so we started that last night, and that's been pretty fun. But other than that, I haven't really been playing a ton of stuff this week. I've just been inundated with, possible international incidents.
Yeah, man, there's been a whole lot of really fucking weird news this week, hasn't there? Jesus Christ.
And we haven't even talked about BlizzCon yet.
Lady Merowin, how's your week been?
It hasn't been too bad. I've been playing the hell out of Warframe's new mainline update, The Old Blood, where they are actually doing something that is unlike anything I've seen in a game as of yet.
How's that?
So basically what's happening is you go into a mission for a specific faction, against a specific faction. It's the Grineer, which are these guys actually right now. And you end up finding this little larvaling, I guess. It's like an initiate Grineer. You kill him, and then he comes back as a lich that is tailored to the warframe you were using when you killed it. So it has some of your abilities. It has its own unique weapon, and it claims a planet in the system. And what you have to do is you have to go 2 nodes on said planet, complete the missions there, and kill its minions to get clues as to essentially a word of power that you have to use to vanquish this lich.
Oh, okay.
So, tailor-made enemy just for you. You can only face it alone. But the downside is whenever you're doing a mission on that planet, there's a chance it's going to show up. And if you don't have this word already figured out, you're going to die repeatedly. You cannot defeat it.
Would you call it the Lich King?
I don't know. Because this is a point where you can either defeat it or you can convert it so it becomes an ally.
Ooh.
If you defeat it, you get its unique weapon. If you convert it, it'll show up. Digital Extremes was kind of explaining it like the mysterious stranger in Fallout. It'll just show up randomly during clutch moments to save your ass.
Ooh.
It's been interesting so far. I've run a few missions and have been. It's wiped the floor with me. I'm not ready. But to see a mainline drop like this, it's kind of epic. Like, they don't make a big, oh, hey, we're dropping this huge content patch. It's a, oh, by the way, so we considered bringing this in. Guess what? It's coming next week. Have fun.
Yeah, like, Dicey Dungeons kind of did the same to me. Like, randomly, they're like, hey, we're going to give you a whole new set of dungeons to do, and you only have 1 week to finish them for our Halloween drop. Have fun. So, I did waste one of my nights to that.
Yeah, Peter and I have actually been ripping through this content, and neither of us are anywhere near ready to take this thing on. So it's gonna take some doing, and then we think at Christmas or just in time for the holidays, they're gonna be doing their next mainline content, which is where they're gonna be bringing in space battles. Like, you get a ship.
You know, yesterday's bad guy, how are you doing, buddy? How are you doing, pal? You made some big choices, huh? One big choice? A choice. Well, that's great for you. Is it the taster's choice that you made? I'm going to ignore yesterday's bad guy for the rest of the video.
You know, I mean, honestly, if I had mod powers, I could put him on a timeout.
Don't worry about it. Anyway.
What have you been playing?
I did, as stated, play a little bit of the Dicey Dungeons, but primarily I've been playing the Luigi's Mansion 3. And it is the most adorable bullshit. It's up there with the Link's Awakening for how fucking adorable it is. Link's Awakening, probably still more adorable in this game, but there's more meat and potatoes to this game. There's more going on, and I especially like the fact that whenever you're catching a boo, it does a little woo at you. It's adorable, it's fun. Each floor is its own level with its own special rules that you need to learn and play with. There's a ghost puppy that is your best friend, and there's a gooey boy that is also like your shadow that follows you around. If you can have a friend that's in the same room as you, they can also be your friend who also you fart out your back and make a goo mess. It's great fun for everybody. I can't recommend this game enough. And I haven't even gotten into the multiplayer stuff yet. Beyond there being multiplayer in the actual levels themselves, and I strongly recommend if you can couch co-op this, it is so worth couch co-oping that I can't finish gushing about that. But I haven't even touched the multiplayer yet.
So you got a goo boy coming out of your back.
Yes.
All right, cool. That's all I need to know. I just need to know how Gooigi happens, and that's it.
Gooigi literally gooshes in and out of your backside at beck and call. Indeed, Venom sequel confirmed.
Yeah, no way I can state how overjoyed I am with that statement.
And thankfully, yes, if you hit any of the D-pad buttons, you get Mario! Mario?
Oh, I want to switch so bad.
The game did break my fucking heart at one point. There's a movie scenario, and one of the posters is Little Mac with the ghost of Doc over his shoulder. It is like, oh... But Nintendo, you haven't made a new Punch-Out in so long. Don't you play with my heartstrings like this? But yeah, if you get a chance, this game has already outsold every other Nintendo-produced game so far this year. And I don't blame the people buying this. There's a lot of meat to it. I will say the only real disappointment that I have is that the money isn't really that useful. Eventually you unlock a store that you spend the money on, and it's not really that much of a spoiler. You can spend it on things that help you find where the gems and collectibles are.
So basically, they just help you backtrack better.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the money, while really fun to gather up, Anyway, let's get down to the real story this week. And because we love journalism, what here on on our little show here.
Yes, that is a core thing to the show.
Everything started off with a couple of tweets for this week. To give you a little bit of background, GO Media was basically a combination of Gawker and The Onion, kind of cobbled together from purchases off of Univision to make a larger cross-promotional thing. GMG is the union representing them at that time. And Jim Spanfeller, a fellow you'll hear come up many times, decided to let go of the longtime deputy editor Barry Petchesky, I believe is his name. Sorry if I'm bad at pronunciation here. As his lead role, in Deadspin, stating that he needed to stick to sports, which has been a long-running joke from Deadspin of not sticking to sports.
No, not at all, and arguably for the better.
Yeah, some of their most popular works have been the tangential stuff to sports. You know, what with the kneeling and whatnot.
Yeah, arguably their lasting legacy is a very clever and sharp viewpoint on the intersection of sports with other aspects of culture, most notably the politics. So, yeah, I'd say it's pretty standard for covering sports.
Now, you might be wondering, why is Mr. Video Games talking about a sports blog? Well, you may notice amongst the companies what be owned here by GO Media is our good friends Kotaku, I mean, we also love The Onion, let's be real. But Mr. Kotaku here is kind of one of our favorite sources because, you know, some of their opinion pieces, for me at least, some of them aren't my most beloved things, but man, do they get the reporting right most of the time. So, yeah. And let's say maybe they posted some articles. And Jason Schreier has been mostly outspoken on the tweeters about what's going on. All of the Geo Media brands basically came together at about the same time because the owners decided to put advertisements on the page that played very loud, obnoxious videos. You might remember that happening to me last week. In the middle of a show. Unblockable, loud, obnoxious videos. Right in the middle of your viewing pleasure. And every single one of the owned medias had a little something to say about it and tried to direct people to the owners to get their feedback, which they very promptly killed the article and redirected on. Which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing started off with the response from all of the Geo Media verticals, basically saying that they were tired. They weren't happy with the advertisements either. They had been fielding complaints from a lot of their users because they were the only points of contact that the users had. So they decided, look, we don't have any control over this. We're gonna give you an email address that will send this up the chain to the people that do have control over this. Most notably, CEO Jim Spanfeller. And that email address was quickly deactivated, and all of the articles that included criticisms of those advertisements were taken down very quickly. This all led to a lot of the initial exits from Deadspin, and then that in turn came back onto Kotaku whenever Jason started talking, with a lot of people reporting erroneously that Kotaku had been shuttered as well, or that Kotaku had been sold, or a bunch of other just false stories that had come out after that. But the real lasting thing from this is what happened like in the coming days after this story initially broke, which I know we're probably about to get into here. Um, there
Brian,
was a exodus.
you also have a question directed at you in chat, Brian.
I did see that. So let's see that from yesterday's bad guy. So my esteem of Kotaku is positive or negative. Kotaku is an organization. One, unlike I understand, Travis, why you might not be a huge fan of a lot of their opinion stuff. I mean, it's opinion stuff. We're allowed to have differing viewpoints on it,
and that's fine.
But exactly, me myself, I really like a lot of what they put out from in their opinion section. But like you, I really hold their news desk in high regard. Jason and Cecilia and Joshua and Gita, they all are outstanding over there. They are people that I have modeled myself after while working in this industry. Whether it's covering games, wrestling, sports, anything like that, they are the standard that I hold myself to. I had the privilege to meet Cecilia back whenever I was covering the Overwatch League Grand Finals, and that was an awesome experience. So I have a lot of praise to heap on them as a journalistic outlet. And then in terms of the social and political aspects of sports not being considered covering sports enough, I write for a website called Outsports, where my only job is to talk about sports while not talking about sports. So obviously, I'm going to come down on the side of there's always an intersection, and that intersection should be discussed.
Look, shitting on opinion sections and unpopular opinions in opinion sections, I would be the blackest kettle here if I did so, because I spent 2 years getting paid for my opinions that were just whatever bullshit I was feeling that day. You might remember once upon a time Jack Thompson threatening me with libel, so that was fun. And I learned a lot about journalism and punching up during those times. It's great times, great times.
Oh yeah, it's a valuable lesson.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was not really the end of things for Deadspin itself. Uh, Basically, the last person left was somebody who was already ready to quit before this whole thing. They promoted Dave McKenna to the editor-in-chief just in time for him to quit, and with a nice little article under the tag of bye, and it was just a thank you to all of the nice people who have followed Deadspin over the years. It's the last one who shut down everything. Yeah, the people who quit were very unceremoniously just removed from their ability to do any edits, especially from reporting on the Washington Post. The people who quit just eventually weren't able to edit, but were never really directly contacted on what was, going on or anything. Just kind of eventually stopped getting responses.
Yeah, basically what happened as more and more staff members left, the higher ups at Geo decided to start recycling old articles onto the front page,
Mm-hmm.
and people caught on to that very quickly, and started calling them out on it on Twitter. And then a lot of the pieces that have gone up since the mass exodus of the editorial staff have all been without bylines. So if whoever is writing articles for the site now, they're not being credited, which is a huge fucking no-no and a huge fucking red flag. I know that there have been a couple of people that I think there are a couple freelancers have had stuff published up there that have basically had a complete 180 on their idea of participation with Deadspin after that stuff has gone up. In terms of like them basically saying like, yeah, I don't want to have anything to do with this company anymore, or this site, because like the site is not what it used to be. Um, and then today, of all things, you saw Geo come out and say that they were going to permanently delete all personal Kinja blogs, which Kinja was like basically it was like Geo's personal blog site for users. Like they could go have their own blog page, they could put up their own posts and stuff like that. And the main reason why they decided they were going to do that is because this insult, Jim Spanfeller is a herb, started spreading through the like. First off, they turned off the comment sections on all Deadspin articles,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that, people started using their Kinja blogs to promote this joke, and they started seeing their blogs containing the joke erased. And so after that, basically the joke spread to the point where they just decided like, we're just going to delete all Kinja blogs. We're just going to delete them all. So do whatever you want, like blah blah blah. And then that hit. A Vice article came out from a former Deadspin writer, calling them out on it. And then after that came out, they said, well, we're going to reevaluate what to do with the Kinja blogs. So like there's just like this whole giant mess going on right now in regards to how they're going to handle Deadspin going on in the future, and possible shockwaves throughout Geo as a company uh, on the whole. This is less than a month removed from them completely shuttering Splinter, another vertical that was owned under Geo Media that covered politics. They shuttered that thing and laid off the entire editorial staff. So like this is starting to become sort of a pattern here, where either they're trying to like reevaluate what to do with these outlets, and honestly, what else did you expect whenever a private equity firm gets a hold of something that is supposed to be, for lack of a better term, fair and balanced in their approach to covering things? Like if you can, private equity firms and journalists and journalistic outlets just never mix. They never mesh, and this is just another example of that.
Well, let's be real here. What they bought, they weren't interested in buying these blogs. They were interested in buying The Onion. Because The Onion's the fun, happy place. Everything's a joke on The Onion. You don't gotta take that shit seriously. They can post whatever the hell they want. they're the ones that get all of the traction and all the people love them and they get the post on Facebook that people keep coming back to. They didn't want a Deadspin or a Kotaku that makes a lot of enemies and says things that don't make people happy constantly.
The world doesn't make people happy. But you still have to cover it. You still have to put the stories out there and tell the stories that need to be told, you know? And like that's one of the beautiful things that Deadspin was really good at. And the fact that they put the kibosh on an outlet just because they didn't cover sports enough or they didn't stick to sports whenever their audience was one that wasn't going to go for the stick to sports messaging to begin with is very short-sighted from GeoMedia's uppers.
Yeah, I think you're going to see the same exodus of readership that you saw when Cracked fired all of the good people except for a handful from their site. So, yeah, it's a good fucking job killing another brand. I guess you didn't want this brand in the first place. You know, promote your more beneficial, better brands. At this point, it's hard to tell what this actually means for other items on the list, your Gizmodos, your Kotakus, etc. Because, I don't know if you noticed or not, but they're also not full of people without a fucking backbone. And I have to imagine most of them will quit too if pushed to the edge. And as much as I like seeing my Jason Schreier intake every now and again, despite whether or not he's technically on paternity leave at the moment, yeah, I want all of these people to stay together producing what they produce in the best media outlet they can. Like I know there's shortcuts that you have to take, and not every ad deal is going to be the best they want. And they understand this too. They put up with a whole lot of shit over the lifespan of Kotaku. But you do that because this is the world of journalism. Congratulations.
Yep. It sure is. Marilyn, I'm curious. I've been jumping in anytime there's silence here. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this story.
I mean, really, this is a really big mess. Like, they haven't done any of their brands any favors because, like, now it's become a more common knowledge of all of the different outlets that they own. And you're going to start seeing readership drop off across the board, I think, as people are going, yeah, no, this isn't right. Why are we supporting you in any way, shape, or form? So I think they've really, really, really shot themselves in the foot on this. And yeah, Spenfeller probably needs to be slapped and put in the corner for a while.
And I just want to give you all the best subtweet you will see literally all week on this is from Kinja Deals. I'm just going to put that up there.
What up?
Herb scissors. Kitchen shears. Ideal for snipping herbs, office, shredding paper, and art handmade paper cut.
It's too good.
That's beautiful.
So we'll continue to update you as the story goes, because I'm sure we're not fucking done on this, but, fuck herbs, they deserve to be cut. That's all I've really got to say. But that wasn't the only story we really have this week, because BlizzCon happened, didn't it? That was last weekend. And boy, it didn't really go the way I expected it to. Probably for the better for Blizzard. Not, I think, for the better for, the gaming community as a whole, but hey, I don't get much say over that.
I will admit, with BlizzCon, I'm a little disappointed. Like, I was expecting to be able to keep back my popcorn and my beer and watch the shit show happen, and then the fuck.
The fuck in what way?
Like, okay, I have major hate for Blizzard.
Yeah.
Major hate for Blizzard.
Well established on the show.
Exactly. I hate myself right now because this BlizzCon actually got me going with the old school hype I used to have when I was a Blizzard fangirl. I was excited. I was impressed. I was planning my budget so I could put cash aside so I could buy some of these games. What the hell, Blizzard? Where did this come from?
Well, I mean, this is the exact thing that we discussed last week in the lead up to this. You know, like it was going to be a tale of two different worlds in a lot of ways, because you had to think that they were going to do all they could to keep a lot of the sentiment regarding the Hong Kong stuff away from the cameras as much as possible.
Yeah, and they have been planning for the last year up to this BlizzCon. They knew if they held steady, they kept the market going, that this BlizzCon could be their saving grace.
Yeah. And to be fair, like there was a large amount of protesters outside of the convention center over there. Like they definitely had a presence. It just wasn't much of one whenever things were on stage. Like if you had a virtual ticket to this thing, you really didn't see a ton of any unrest
Yeah.
that was actually going on the ground there.
They did start with J. Allen Brock giving. I'm. Let me back up a little bit here. I'm very tired of the idea of apologizing to the online community at this point because I don't think there's a great way to do it.
Well, you're in luck because J. Allen Brack didn't actually apologize for anything.
Yeah. Normally, like, you know, when I say a apology was mealy-mouthed or something along those lines, you know, it's an apology that didn't hit home. J. Allen Bragg went every which way but actually addressing what happened. With statements like, we didn't live up to the high standards that we set for ourselves. We moved too quickly. I'm sorry and I accept accountability. But never said what he's accepting accountability for.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I don't advocate judging a book by its cover, but look at the man. He gives me the worst, like, skeezy, slimy music producer vibes I have ever seen.
You know, he would be great in one of those, like, 80s movies. You know, he does a line of coke off the desk, and you're gonna go far, kid! You're gonna go far if you stick with me!
Exactly. Right? And, like, even when he talks, and then the guy had do, I think it was the Warcraft thing, he just, like, he had the absolute definition of watery eyes. He looked like he would have been so much more comfortable in a office in a $8,000 suit with Bluetooth like surgically adhered to his ears. And it just, as cool as the products presented were, the hype, like the people that were doing it, with the exception of, and I can't remember his name, the poor gentleman who does Overwatch.
Oh, Jeff Kaplan.
He is the sweetest, most adorable thing on two legs. But everybody else, it just felt slimy.
Yeah, and it was so quiet. You know, you're used to watching these and getting raucous applause. Most of the noise, honestly, was outside of the theater. You know, what with the protest going on. And there were a lot of people outside protesting. But you wouldn't know it so much if you just went by what you saw on media and Twitter.
Yeah, it was weird. I mean, and the crowds themselves, like, they started making all of these announcements during the opening ceremonies, and you can tell that everybody's like, should we clap? Are we being punked? We should clap? Maybe we should clap. Like, it just seemed like everybody was confused.
But of course, we wouldn't be doing games journalism, the discourse we should, if we don't actually cover the actual meat and potatoes of what went on there. So we're prepared to tell you about all of the good bits that people upon the internet were cheering and shoveling for all of the things on. Starting off, a little bit of that Warcraft love was given. The new expansion is called Shadowlands. And basically, good old Lady Sylvanas, the delightful joy that she is, literally rips the helmet off of the Lich King, destroying it, and sending all of Azeroth, the home planet for everybody in the game, into the land of the dead.
She broke the damn skybox. Like, bravo, Sylvanas. We knew you were batshit insane, but...
It may be one of the worst lines that I've ever heard in Blizzard, and that's really going there. When she grabs a helmet and the Lich King says, that helmet is a prison. The world is a prison. God.
Oh yeah, all the emo. All the emo. Like,
Someone
she
listened to a
needs
lot
a
of Smashing
fringe.
Pumpkins. Sorry.
But I have to give them credit, you know. It's fucking cool looking. It really is. As a former WoW player, it makes me interested, not enough to overcome them firing 800 people and silencing their own sportscasters. But, you know, a little bit.
And, I mean, one of the big things that they announced with this was that they are doing a level squish. They're dropping max level to 60. The new X-Pack is going to be accessible at 50, but then they announced further that they're actually, and not like they'd credit it, they're taking, from what I've heard, an idea that was put out by Bethesda in Elder Scrolls Online. And that's, for Elder Scrolls Online, is the open Tamriel. So basically, you can level from the start in any zone. Everything will scale to you. They're doing the same thing with Shadowlands. So that way, those people who have been playing since day one go, all right, cool, I want to start this brand new character. Oh my god, I have to start at Elwyn again. And I have to play Mists again.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to play Kata again. You don't have to. They flat out said that you could level 1 through 50 in any zone.
Which is nice. I've heard some people complaining, and this is something that Blizzard honestly has been talking about for goddamn near a decade. They did a stat squish a few expansions ago, and now there's a level squish, and for good fucking reason, you know. What the fuck does level 130 mean at this point? So, getting back to numbers that make sense to people is kind of a nice thing to do. You know, I've heard people be like, well, but I worked all this time to get to all these levels, and I went through so many expansions. Cool. Do you fucking want to do it again? You know, there's certain parts of WoW that I would love to replay and go through again, but for the vast majority of the content, I've done it 2 or 3 times at least. You don't really need to do it again. So, I'm kind of glad for it. But yeah, you know, you get a new expansion every few years with World of Warcraft, so that was expected. What was kind of expected, but a little less expected, was the announcement of Overwatch 2, a cross-compatible game with the original Overwatch with a stronger focus on PvE and story elements that will move the game's story forward. No real release date for Overwatch 2, but they did give people time to play it and give a general idea of what you can and cannot do within Overwatch 2. Some of it was kind of leaked before BlizzCon, but you really got the full shebang-a-bang here at BlizzCon.
Yeah, and this was the main thing that I was looking at when it came to BlizzCon, in terms of what they were going to be putting out there. And honestly, I think it's the right approach to have with a sequel to a game like Overwatch, where so much of the like the loop in that game is leveling up, unlocking cosmetics, that sort of thing, where you're not having to basically start over from scratch on a brand new game. All of the stuff you've earned in Overwatch can be imported into Overwatch 2. Overwatch 1 players can still play on Overwatch 2 multiplayer maps, or for PvP at least. So there's not like that hard cutoff where like all your friends have got Overwatch 2, but you don't have it yet, and so you can't play with them. That's not going to be the case at all, which is awesome. I think it's the perfect approach to have for this sort of game. That being said, though, Overwatch 1 players will not have access to the new modes that are coming, most notably the story stuff, the hero centric missions, as well as the PvE missions. And then they also introduced a new PvP mode, basically kind of based off of tug of war, where basically you have to use a robot to push a marker through a map, and whoever can get it the furthest down the other side before time expires wins, which looks really interesting and it could be really fun to play with. Just it feels a lot like Control for anybody who does play Overwatch on a regular basis. That those style of maps. Also, fun note, they are introducing their first Canadian map. They're putting together a Toronto map for this game, which they showed off with a giant sculpture of a hockey player. So on point for Toronto.
I will admit, I was watching that very carefully and I was actually recognizing buildings and landmarks that I have seen in Toronto, like the Flatiron Building, City Hall. And they kept them like true to life, which was super cool. And they're also introducing their first Canadian hero.
Yes.
Sojourn is Canadian. I am so stoked. It's about time we had some fucking representation.
Yeah, they introduced them as well as another new character, Echo, in the initial trailer, which kind of played up the story stuff that's going to be happening in this game. Basically, Overwatch is getting back together, and who knows what that means for the world. So it'll be I separating myself away from the other discourse that I really cannot ignore in a lot of ways. Like, as someone who's really their only interaction with Blizzard properties is Overwatch, on a regular basis, I'm excited for this. It does not dissuade me from criticizing them whatsoever regarding their practices otherwise, but like I will at some point probably be playing Overwatch 2 whenever it comes out. The game is still heavy in development though, so I would not expect this to come out for at least another 2 years, maybe a year and a half, but no less than no less than a year and a half.
I have to ask, how Canadian is the new Canadian boy on a scale from 0 to bear hugger?
How Canadian? I'm sorry, what? You broke up for a sec.
How Canadian is this new hero on a scale from 0 to bear hugger from the Punch-Out series?
I don't know. They have not released really any details about her apart from her name and that she's Canadian. Yeah.
She got some pretty sweet dreadlocks, though.
Yes, very much so. And I'm loving the fact that on her armor, the shoulder plate, she's got the stylized maple leaf. But, like, I'm super stoked because I'm a lore whore. any game I play, I need to know the lore. So Overwatch has always had such fantastically rich lore, but you've had to go outside the game to get it. And so now with the PvE and the story mode and the hero missions and everything along those lines, I'm thrilled. I finally get to learn more stuff about it.
As a long-standing Warcraft player myself, from what they've talked about in the levels and the set progression, especially from what Nathan Grayson had to mention about that, it sounds a lot like dungeons in World of Warcraft, where you have fairly linear levels that lead you forward through a thing, and you get these nice scenery bits as you go through, and then they expand for a bit and then collapse, and you get arenas as you move through. I don't know how great that would be in practice. Maybe I'm crazy here.
I mean, that's exactly how a lot of the PvP maps are set up, though. Like, yeah, they've built in alleys for you to be able to flank, and there's some verticality to some of those levels as well. But at the end of the day, there's still like, here's a place that's clearly meant to be more of a battle arena, and then here are a couple of winding roads to get you to the next place that's clearly meant to be more of a battle arena. It's just a different mechanization of what they've already built into a lot of the maps that do work. Even though, like, obviously some of the maps that are in Overwatch are a bit more frustrating, or things that I might not necessarily want to play as much as others, but they all have a very like core approach to how they build themselves out in that way.
And like I think the story mode bits, they're doing them like interactive shooter based movies to try to explain more of the lore, which is something that like I've been asking for since day one. Like I played in the beta for Overwatch.
Hmm.
And it's like, so these guys all have backstories. What are they? How do I find out in game? And so like it's nice that they're finally giving us something along those lines. But I don't know. I mean, like, I was hoping more of like, hey, look, here's quests. You can play through each character's actual story from start to now. That would be cool.
You're not wrong.
Well, I mean, we still don't know. We're still a ways out, and like there likely will be some of that stuff, especially considering they are building out cinematic intros and outros for every mission in the story mode. So,
and especially considering we have no hard or fast dates for either Overwatch 2 or Diablo 4. It could be next year, or it could be 3 years from now for either of them. And it's probably not next year from what a lot of the industry people have said so far.
At least not for Overwatch 2.
Yeah.
I know with Diablo 4, they were saying we're taking this slow, and we're talking slow even by Blizzard standards, slow.
Which Activision has to be pissed about.
No, it lets them try to flog more of their games.
Fair enough. But that isn't the only game to have come out of BlizzCon, and the one I was honestly more interested in. Diablo 4 was out on the table finally. What they had thought about previewing last year, and instead they had a lot of fun things to preview instead. But we got a really long trailer too for Diablo 4, about 10 minutes, and it's dark and it's gruesome, and it's unsavory.
It's beautiful. My first experience with Diablo was Diablo 3. And the person I was dating at the time kept saying, "No, man, Diablo 2, Diablo 1, they were so much darker. It was so much more evil, and this, that, and the other." And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? This is pretty fucking dark. And now I see what he means.
I played a bit of Diablo 2, but that was exactly why I couldn't get into Diablo 2. It was cutting yourself the video game. I was like, this is brown. This is all brown, and I'm bored. So
I'm kind of excited for D4. Like, This looks gorgeous. And Druid, I get to be a bar.
Yeah, the initial three, Barbarian, Sorceress, and Druid, so, playing fairly close to template here. But yeah, you can see a little bit of what the characters here look like. And looking here, man, I want to like this, but also just all. There's so much detail and work to each one of these levels, but they're all two colors. There's. Some of them have puke green and brown. Some of them have white and brown, and some of them have orange and brown, but they're all brown and gross from everything I've seen, which is just not me, man.
I believe that's the tagline of the game: brown and gross.
Yeah, and so I will say, dude, if I were 14 years old and I looked at this, I would have an instant boner. So I understand. I'm not mad that they made a game that clearly wasn't for me. That's fine. Because somewhere out there, there's another 14-year-old Travis out there that has the biggest rage boner to go out here and play this dark, depressing-looking Daikatana bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm angry because I've been looking forward to Diablo 4, and it looks like this, and it plays like a slow, clunky, boring mess, and I love my monk in Diablo 3 who's fast and speedy and blows everything up in super fast time and does all the pretty colors. I'm a Care Bear, okay? Fine. Have it. Have at it. I'm a fucking Care Bear. I don't care. I want my colors.
I'm looking forward to playing a barbarian so I can Sparta kick things off cliffs. I mean, I would probably play the fuck out of every class they release for this. Just, it looks like way too much fun. I mean, the ultimates and everything that they've been teasing, like, I need this in my life. This is the kind of game I have been looking for.
Now, of course, there are some negatives, to the Diablo 4. Thank you, by the way, Andy Robinson from Video Game Chronicles. You cannot play Diablo 4 offline. Similar to your Diablo 3 fiascos, they have promised to beef up their servers so you don't get your error 76 like you did at the launch Diablo 3, and they promised not to bring back anything resembling a live auction house. But it's still online only, and you have to do it to play it on PC.
Now, as someone who did not ever touch Diablo 3 on any console or PC or anything, from what I understand, the response to the always online status of Diablo 3 was a big old what the fuck. And I'm curious to know, as I know you, I'm sure, obviously, Merowyn, both played a lot of Diablo 3. What are your feelings learning that? Like that is that they're continuing with that approach to having the game online all the time.
I'm not super against it. I mean, the fact that you can still set your game to private so you don't have to worry about anybody else jumping in and fucking things up and ruining story for you, etc., that's okay. But I mean, I know a lot of people that used to play the older Diablo games as, hey, WoW is on maintenance right now, or my internet is down. And so I'm going to play Diablo, who are incredibly frustrated that my net's down, I can't even touch this game. And yeah, I get that. Like, Diablo is, even for me now, is that game I play when I don't quite feel like playing any of my other games. It's not something I'm going to necessarily sink like 14 hours in a sitting into. But like, I've had mad issues with my internet connection over the last 4 months. And so Would I have liked to have been able to jump into a game that gives me that wonderful smashy feeling? Yes. Could I? No.
I'm of two minds on it, because when I was playing Diablo 3 for the first time, and I was going through all these things, and I'd get pop-up notifications that my friend had done such and such an achievement, like, oh my god, you can do that? And then I'd see, like, my friends going through an area I wanted to do again, so I'd, hey, Kate, I see you're doing a fun thing. Can I join you? And, I'll help out with heals, and it'll be a fun time. And that was really fucking dope. The negative, of course, being that your friends always see exactly what the fuck you're doing. Even when you don't want people to join you, they at least know that you're doing a thing. And that can be kind of annoying. And at least this is the year of our Lord 2019, and internets are more stable than they were when Diablo 3 came out. You're more than likely going to have a fairly stable connection, and they've promised to be better about the stability of the connection needed. So if you're playing your Diablos through a satellite modem or what have you, it'll be fine. And if you're really fucking concerned about it, you can buy it on console. They've already announced, I believe that it's coming to Xbox One and PlayStation 4. Whether that eventually folds into actually meaning PlayStation 5 and Xbox GameCube, I don't really know. But we'll see.
Okay.
So you've got your options, and yeah, if it really pisses you off, play it on console. But I kind of really dug the social interactions of it, more so than the actual playing with friends. Was the sharing of shared events and be like, oh shit, you just killed the butcher? Wasn't that fucking rad? Sorry, I spat at the camera a little bit. That's my present to you.
No worries.
I have one ask for Blizz. One, give us another cow level. Or sorry, a cow level. And two, bring back the butcher. Make him hard. Because he's one of the first bosses you deal with in D3, and I heard that he used to be end game content back in the day in the other Diablo games. So I want to see him as end game content again.
But of course, that wasn't everything to come out of BlizzCon. One of my favorite things to come out of BlizzCon had to be some of the sponsors bailing from BlizzCon very shortly before everything came out. Mitsubishi Motors of Taiwan ended their contract with Blizzard's esports division, which made me just laugh so hard.
I mean, this was going to be the first real drop in the bucket here in terms of fallout. I'm surprised it took this long for this news to come out, because to my knowledge, them dropping themselves as a sponsor came pretty quickly after the ban on Blizzcon came down. But of course, the news didn't break until shortly before the con, like you said. I mean, I don't really know how much there is to really say about this, other than what were you going to expect to happen, especially a division in Taiwan who has a testy relationship with China to begin with, and I'm pretty sure a lot of them have thrown their support behind the Hong Kong movement. So yeah, punishing someone like that for just basically stating their own personal beliefs, I'm not surprised in some ways.
Yeah, we'll see if we really hear anything about Coca-Cola and Aces and all of them. I don't expect to, honestly, because we've kind of gotten past the high point of the torches and all of that good stuff being bared against Blizzard, and people are trying now to undelete their Battle.net accounts. So,
Yeah.
but in some amount of positivity, I guess, we did get our first female Hearthstone global champion. She won 200,000 in prizes with a 3-0 win, which, if you've ever seen competitive Hearthstone, is fucking dominating.
I'd say so.
Yeah, so she killed it. She talked about how hard it was to get into this as a female, and said, if you want to do this, do it for yourself, regardless of your age or regardless of your gender. This is here for you, which I thought was pretty cool of her too. She was very emotional in the speech that she gave. Yeah, I'd recommend, what with translation and stuff, but yeah, it's good times.
Yeah, I think the real takeaway from this story is like the story she told during her acceptance speech, when basically, a couple of years ago at a major tournament, a male player told her that she was in the wrong line because this isn't for. They basically told her, like, Hearthstone competitive gaming esports is not for you because you're a lady. And then she, dedicated herself for a couple of years and came back and wiped the floor with the competition at this event during BlizzCon. So good for her, good for VK Lion. Like, it's great. I'm glad that this is happening. And I mean, I'm sure that she'll be on the Grandmaster circuit after this.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, we'll see what happens.
It just makes me super happy because, like, I've had that experience in a couple of games, both video and tabletop, and to see her just come back and go roar smash and then be so gracious and graceful about her win, that was beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And, hey, there is a little bit of other news on something that I know everyone was asking about. What happened to Diablo Immortal? It's still being worked on. Hasn't been canceled.
Damn it.
Of course it has been canceled.
They
would burn in the fires of hell.
Duh.
They even had a new trailer for it. Come on. It's got crude humor and everything.
I'm sorry, you can wrap shit in silk. It's still shit.
Look, I'm just gonna go play my Mario Kart, and I don't have to listen to all these negative words coming out of these mouths here. Yeah, there we go. It's coming up. Anytime now. Yeah, so we're just, the rest of this podcast, I'm just going to sit here and play my Mario Kart online.
Don't do that.
No.
Please don't do that. For your own sanity, don't do that.
But yeah, it's coming, and I have my same reaction this year as I did last year. It's fine. I don't really care.
Oh my god. Yesterday's Bad Guy, Lilac Lava, you guys are amazing. Flappy Diablo. That is the only Diablo mobile game that I will accept, is Flappy Diablo.
Only if it's the Butcher.
No, the Butcher can be like, it can be his axe instead of the pipes. And instead of the bird, you get just Diablo's head with little bat wings coming off of it.
I just want to see the Butcher fly.
I think the Butcher does fly in Heroes of Storm. I'm pretty sure he was in there and did a flying bit.
And I mean, like, if you're playing the right kind of monk, you can launch him really well.
But
call that involuntary flight.
I'd like to just end this by, of course, reminding you, fuck Blizzard and especially fuck JL and Brock, who clarified his conversation with PC Gamer. When he thinks he's unhappy, he thinks about two things. First, we didn't live up to our high standards, and I'm sorry to accept accountability, and blah blah blah. And boy, in this article, they got a lot of clarification out of him, and I really just don't want to go into it because my pile of fucks is so low right now on this that I don't want to give my time and energy to all of this shit. You know, he talked about, hey, did you talk to NetEase? Yeah, of course I talked to NetEase. I talked to all of our wonderful third parties who help out with the development. Fucking shitbag.
There was. Sorry,
what
go
this
ahead.
really comes down to is when he's feeling sad, he doesn't think about all of that. He thinks about one thing. He thinks about the pile of money that he's going to fall asleep on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's one thing in his comments trying to better clarify why they didn't rescind the ban on Blitzchung in their apology, or they said that we'll take accountability, but we're not going to do anything. Okay, this is from he's asked why they're not going to reverse it, and he kind of compares their policies on letting their esports athletes and esports casters and anyone else associated with their esports division have their free speech usage uncurtailed on the social media accounts. They just don't want it on their branded broadcasts. And here's how he compares that to like other sports organizations. I feel like we have a far more open set of guidelines and policies than really any other traditional sport that takes a view around making sure that all the people stay on message. And so that's how we think about free expression, how we've contextualized it. I don't know what sports he's watching because there are multiple sports organizations where on league branded broadcasts you are seeing people protest. They might not be saying things outright,
Mm-hmm.
but because they don't have a microphone in front of them. But you brought it up earlier. Football, there are players kneeling. There have been multiple protests on NBA broadcasts. There's been kneeling in baseball. There's been kneeling in soccer. There's been kneeling in I don't know if there's been kneeling in basketball per se, but there have been other forms of protests there. My mind goes back to the Miami Heat a few years back with the Trayvon Martin shooting, them all posing in hoodies.
Yeah.
The Clippers like coming out and throwing all their warm up stuff in the middle of the court whenever the Donald Sterling tapes came out. Like all these organizations allow their players to do this sort of thing without being like directly affected for the most part. I know the major thing here, of course, is like indirect stuff or collusion amongst owners, a la the Colin Kaepernick situation in the NFL. But I'm sorry to say that you have an open set of guidelines and policies that go beyond traditional sports. Like that's a bald-faced lie. Like none of those other players have been like no player has been fined for kneeling in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
No player has been punished for any forms of protest on NBA broadcasts. Like I'm sure that if an NBA player came out and said something about the Hong Kong stuff, you know what? Let's take that back. Forget the hypothetical. We had a situation. This whole thing sparked off with Daryl Morey and the Houston Rockets, and the league came out in support of his ability to say to express his free speech. Now, granted, that was on his Twitter account, and the tweet was later deleted, but the NBA has stood behind him this whole time. And I'm sure that if he had said something in the midst of like a post game interview or something, or in a press interview, like a written interview with somebody, like that reaction he would not have been fined. He would not have been fired. The only person that ever like threatened to fire him was the owner of the Houston Rockets because the Fertitta brothers are UFC douches. So like, I'm sorry, but your messaging here is completely wrong, and it negates a lot of your thoughts around like how open and honest you think you are. And
Especially
it
the
just
two broadcasters who didn't say shit.
exactly. And he's constantly defending the punishments against them, saying like, well, they didn't keep the broadcast on message. I'm like, I'm sorry, but you don't know what Blitzchung is going to say, so you don't have the chance to cut the microphone feed necessarily right above hand. They did all they could to distance themselves away from that, you know.
Mm.
So like, I'm sorry. Like I'm not going to stand here and say that holding them to a 6-month ban is justice for anything.
Kelvarn, they were kind of aware what might happen, but they did kind of go out of their way to distance themselves from it. They really didn't have any way to keep him from saying it. They already basically told him beforehand, might not go well. Anyway, we got other news. Did you know that's not related to BlizzCon or Deadspin after a whole hour's worth of conversation? There were actually more news, and we had so many things that we had to fucking cut, but wanted to hit some of the more interesting ones. Like, Sony Interactive has shut down, or is going to shut down, PlayStation Vue, I should say. They believed at the beginning of the PlayStation 4 lifestyle cycle that your PlayStation was going to be the center of your home entertainment. Do we all remember when Xbox and PlayStation came out and, boy, you're going to use your console for fucking everything. You're never going to need anything else again. Not really. And Netflix and Disney Plus and everything kind of ate their lunch. So it's going away, and you can still access your channels if you want to. But sorry, go ahead, Brian.
I don't know. Honestly, like, I don't know if this. I think YouTube TV ate their lunch. Honestly.
Also,
like,
not wrong.
That's what I'm looking at. As a person who subscribes to PlayStation Vue, fuck. That just makes more busy work for me. I mean, honestly, like, I'm not surprised by this, like, yeah. Sony is not the company to build an entertainment system out of a gaming system. Like, they are not the hub people. Microsoft is much more the hub people, and honestly, we've seen how that messaging has really come across over 2 console generations. So, I don't know. It doesn't surprise me.
Okay.
It just means I gotta get my Sling subscription back.
As somebody who owned a PlayStation 2, 3, and currently owns a PlayStation 4, is it sad to say I never knew PlayStation Vue existed?
There's a button on my Amazon TV remote for the PlayStation Vue channel. So somebody tried to push this shit real hard, at least. But also, I never saw a single fucking reason to use this, so I didn't. And there's my story.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the only reason why I have it is I have to watch all of the wrestling. So I'm basically paying $50 a month for a wrestle box, which doesn't even cover all of the wrestling. So I'm honestly, this is a godsend for me because I now cut back.
All right. Anyway, moving forward, here's a bit of an odd one for you coming out of The Verge and Nick Stat. Amazon is blaming error blocking Nintendo product resellers. Basically, if you want to buy your third-party old-ass Nintendo products, they're not going to remake any of these things or resell them. Nah, you've got to go to your third parties, and some of those products are horseshit, and some of them are great. And Amazon basically wiped everything that was a reseller of Nintendo products, rather than just wiping, the illegitimate sellers, let's say, the people selling your 1 in 100 Hong Kong knockoffs. And really made things a little bit awkward at the time from doing it. But there's also some parts of this that are a little controversial in this, even going by way of what was intended here, because Amazon is in parts requiring the approval of Nintendo before selling your product. And as well, when they issued it, the the date that they issued it on, I believe, was 10/31/2019, which was the same time that they were also saying you can't sell past this date. So you might see where the issue is. Now, counterfeit resellers on Amazon are kind of old news. Apple previously, as mentioned in the article, they worked with Apple to make sure that there was a chain so that knockoff products that were really bad didn't get resold, but resellers of quality products could still put their items out. So it's not news, but there's still a lot of really strange and awkward to how Amazon decided to roll this whole thing out.
This is a really odd story in some ways, but honestly, it's also a very on-brand Amazon story.
Not wrong.
In that, hey, we have a delicate situation that might need a deft hand to figure things out. Well, let's just press the fuck it all button and just completely like wipe away stuff, like without any real care in some ways. And then go silent. Like,
and now, thanks to you, Brian, I have the cartoon studio in my head working overtime because it's now picturing this huge console with a big red button on it that says "fuck it all." When you slam down on that button, a little keyboard pops out, and it asks you to input the name of the brand that you want to destroy. And it's like this whole doomsday clock thing. Damn you!
I'll take it. I will take it. Like, God, this is just really frustrating, especially for these users. Knowing Amazon's business practices as well, like it would not surprise me at all if this is just another way for them to undercut another market in a lot of ways. Because there's a lot of practices where like they will recognize things that people are buying a lot of, and then they will slowly phase out the third-party seller that is doing that business, and then take that business upon themselves. So who knows? We might get an Amazon-branded game reselling marketplace at some point. That's like a very like not necessarily a far-fetched thing, but a pretty far-fetched thing to happen. But it's a possibility.
It is.
Knowing Amazon.
There is, also the fact that you have people who sell like retro hardware, right? Like the NES, SNES, all-in-one products, and some of them are better than others. But who's to judge which one of these are the ones that should be able to sell? I love my Retron 5 to tiny fucking pieces, but I also recognize it's not the best way for you to really replay these. It's more playing a ripped ROM than it is really playing the game itself, yada yada, so I just don't like a company with the global reach that Amazon has being the ones that get to tell you whether you can be a reseller product or not. That's kind of my bottom line for me. I understand wanting to block the cheap shit knockoffs that, like I said, the Hong Kong exclusives, 1 in 100 game knockoffs where you get the Super Mario Brothers or something clipped in, and it's shit quality, and you get what's on the tin, but you don't get what you wanted. So it's weird. That's ultimately it. And our last little sub dive here before we go into things. Last week, we talked about Electronic Arts moving to Steam. The first thing that I really want to put out here Let's take a look at that listing of games directly from the topmost relevant. Yeah, you get your Jedi Fallen Order, and then you get your Mass Effect 2 and your Sims 3 and your Spore. Some of these games are ancient. Holy shit.
Someone fired up my Xbox 360. What's up?
Jade Empire Special Edition.
Yo, you don't curse the good name of Jade Empire. Crisis 2, oh my god. Alright.
Oh my god.
We're putting the Crisis games back on PC.
Command and Conquer Red Alert.
We're back on Steam. They've already been on PC. Oh god, really? Oh, that's the demo. You can get a... Honestly, okay, here's the funny thing. They advertise a demo for Mass Effect 2. I went to the store page on Steam. I, for the life of me, could not find the place to download the demo on the Steam page. That could be a blunder on my behalf personally, but I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it. Yeah, no. I believe how we left that situation last week whenever they announced it was this will probably be underwhelming in that it will all be old stuff. And lo and behold, what happened?
Yeah, right the fuck here. Look at this old ass shit. You got one game from this year's Star Wars, and this is all they really wanted to do, wasn't it? They wanted to put Star Wars on Steam.
Oh, totally. Although I will say this, the fact that they did not discount Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, that is appalling. Why would you discount Mirror's Edge, but not that? What up, Kurt Schilling? Get fucked.
Here's the real Command and Conquer Red Alert 3, you know, from January 2009!
Yep. Like, honestly, this is what we expected. It was going to be all the old stuff, and then a new way for the Jedi. That is exactly what happened. That is exactly what we thought it would. And even if you do buy Jedi Fallen Order on Steam, you still have to link it through your Origin Access account. They're bringing Origin Access interconnectivity to Steam. So, like, at the end of the day, this is just them this is like them saying, like, well, our games are in Walmart. Why don't we put them in Walmart and Target? That's basically what this is. Instead, they make you buy a Walmart credit card to buy the game at Target.
Oh.
It has always bothered me to see companies that have their own storefronts that will go, yes, we'll sell this through Steam, but you've got to have our storefront to run it. Like,
yeah.
Why? I mean, yes, the Origin store, I have been on there. It's a fucking mess. It's hideous. It does not work well. It eats the resources on your computer like no tomorrow. So, I mean, Fallen Order, yeah, you better have a $4,000 rig because you ain't going to be able to play it.
No, and Kelvorum brings up a good point. It's the exact same thing that Ubisoft does with the Uplay store whenever you buy an Ubi game on Steam. And I can't tell you how frustrating it is to try and boot up a game in my Steam library that is published by Ubisoft, and then it boots up the Uplay store separately for me to boot the game from there. It is beyond frustrating.
And Origin and Ubisoft stores like Uplay, they don't remember your password. And you log into them so infrequently. I have had to reset my passwords I don't know how many times.
Yeah.
We're going like, you know, every 6 months at least. I've had to reset. They're going to start flagging my account because of you've changed your password again. Why? Are you dumb?
But, man, I'm ready to get into not the last story we have, but the last major story we have. The one that everyone's been talking about. Of course, it's the reviews are in! Death Stranding, finally, the embargoes have dropped! Everyone can talk about it. It's alright.
The reviews keep coming.
Reviews never change.
No. They kept you waiting until embargo, and now they're...
Yeah, it's an 85. It's pretty good. It's a good
Honestly,
score.
that's surprising considering how divisive this game has been across platforms and across reviewers.
Look, all I really have to say up off the bat, Luigi's Mansion 3, 86. This,
God damn it!
throwing that out
Are
there.
you gonna do not play this objectively better game? I will not stand for this bullshit.
It's
Anyway.
1 point better. Mm.
I mean, it is okay. 1 point better. That's fine. As much stock. Anyway, I kid. Honestly, it's whatever.
I'm still not quite jumping on the bandwagon for this game yet until the user reviews start coming out.
It's fascinating to watch all of this go through because, especially people are going, well, these people just worship at the gates of Hideo Kojima. Of course they're saying nice things. They wanted it to be good. I don't know about that.
Okay, well, we should get into like why exactly this game is so divisive in the first place from what we're seeing. It's basically like the most distilled walking simulator that you can think of. Like literally, it's like Kojima heard the term walking simulator and thought it was just about someone walking and did not understand like a lot of the other stuff around it in some ways, and then just put his own things into it. It's just such an odd creature in a lot of ways.
One of my favorite quotes right here, just near the beginning of the Kotaku review. It progresses not with the quiet stroke of a pen, but with the pounding crash of a hammer. I brought you a metaphor, one of the characters say late in the game. It is stupid and obvious and perfect.
I mean, basically this game is like auteur theory manifested in a way that will both make you wonder why they ever gave Hideo Kojima coding lessons, but then also make you understand why everyone, including myself and you, Travis, like hold his stuff in such high regard in a lot of ways. Like, from what I understand, this is one of those games where like you have to get through the first like half of the game to get to the really powerful stuff. And like, yeah, that's a bit frustrating. You know, it kind of reminded me of Final Fantasy 13 in some ways. But at the same time, like, this thing is just so off the wall. Even down to like the most minute details, like how well they rendered the Monster Energy cans.
Oh, we haven't seen such in-game promo since Final Fantasy 15's Ramen.
Like, it reminded me so much of that moment in Metal Gear Solid 2, the ice cubes, and you realize that you can actually interact with like individual ice cubes. Like, is that sort of like distilled level stuff where like you didn't need to put this in there at all? Like, this could have passed perfectly fine without having that sort of like excruciating, in some ways like mind-numbing detail put into this thing, but you did it, and it's really weird, but also like cool in some ways. Like, it's just so, there's just so many different things in this game that it makes me excited to get my hands on it on Friday. But also like this will probably be a slog for good chunks of it.
Yeah, there is no reason to stream this game fucking ever. Don't do it. Don't you fucking do it.
Oh, if I could stream it, I would stream it.
I've heard a lot of complaints about it in that it's slow. It's painfully slow. People are like, yeah, you know, you get like 10, 15 hours in and it'll start picking up. And I think it was Jason Schreier that was saying that the fact that the baby crying through your controller, he's a new parent. And he's like, I finally got the kid down to sleep and I wanted to sit down on my couch, relax, play a game. And then the baby started crying. And so I turned off the game and started playing something else.
I mean, if we live through the baby crying in Yoshi's Island, we'll live through this.
Yeah.
One of my biggest turnoff to the game had came from Imran. I forget his last name. He recently.
Imran Khan?
Yeah. Yes. He talked about how cutscenes would repeat over and over again, and you can't really skip them. You can skip them by portions, but it'll play out in parts, right? Going to bed, part of the cutscene is you going into your house and then taking a shower, then cracking open a cold one, then actually going to bed.
Not to mention, apparently, the end of game cutscene is 2 hours long.
Oh, Hideo Kojima had to beat his Metal Gear Solid 4, huh?
Yeah, that honestly
and you
doesn't
can't
surprise
skip
me.
it.
No, that doesn't surprise me at all, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so they're saying that like the story mode is going to take you between 70 and 85 hours to complete.
I've heard shorter hour counts for it, but I've definitely heard some people playing the game around 70 to 80 hours.
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
Breath of the
I've heard
Wild,
closer
because
to
30 to
60.
40 is also, that was how quickly Greg Miller got through, was about 30 hours. Because he just wanted to get through as quickly as possible so we could get the review out and then try it more later.
It seems too much. I mean, there are some aspects of this game that are really cool, like where you've kind of got the same vibe that you do with oh shit, what game was it? The more recent Dark Souls, where other players can leave messages or supplies or what have you. Um, that's apparently a thing in this. So you're
Yes.
actually working as a community, even if you never run into these people. Um, that's cool, but I don't know if I can devote that much time to a single game, says the girl who has like 900 hours in Warframe. Um, but like, just it's a walking sim. I don't know if I could do that long in a walking sim with unskippable cutscenes. I would probably drive myself insane.
Here's one of my favorite paragraphs from the IGN article after talking about a large part of the game is balancing your inventory so that Sam can walk well through different terrains. Mercifully, there's an auto-arrange option in the inventory menu to optimize where exactly each piece of cargo sits on Sam's body, and once I discovered it, I used it for absolutely every subsequent delivery because why on earth would anybody not? The only time it backfired was when I was sent to literally deliver a pizza. The auto range shoved the pizza onto my backpack sideways, thus ruining some poor bloke's dinner.
And honestly, like that mechanic kind of intrigues me. Not the auto arrange, but like the puzzle nature of like having to like balance all of the stuff and get everything in the right way. I don't know. I like fucking around with inventory systems sometimes.
Oh, Resident Evil 4 gave me a fucking fetish for inventory systems done properly.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's why I'm excited about that. I mean, I could totally see why people will see that and just be like, nope, hard X, you know? I'm very glad that they put that auto arrange capability in the game because they're, for those people, but like, and that's one thing I'm coming away from this game with. There seems to be elements within it that will speak to pretty much any gamer, and that they have like kind of detailed the different mechanics within it to cater to people that want to play things a different way. Like if you don't want to deal with like the auto arrange stuff, they've put vehicles in the game that you can use if you don't want to do everything on foot. Although the vehicles handle like garbage in
Hideo
some instances.
Kojima has never made a good vehicle in any of his games.
No, terrible stuff. Although it was close with Metal Gear with MGS5, I'll give him that. But the real thing that really pulls me into this is the lore around this world. Like some of I don't want to get too much into the lore stuff that I do know because I don't want to throw out any guy. This is one of those games that I want people to go into it fresh, and and I want them to find out those details on their own, not for me. But the lore in this game is super intriguing, like how the world got to be the way it is, like some of the stuff around it, the supernatural elements within it. Like, I am all in on like just digging into the dirt of what's going on in this version of Earth, and just working my way through it, no matter how hard I have to use Eleanor to balance Norman Reedus as he bridges across the world.
Yeah, I'm personally kind of looking forward to making my chocolate milk and just, you know, arranging my own food and pharmaceuticals as I see fit, and just kind of meander my way through this weird fucking thing. And man, I'm going to hate parts of it, but those are going to be the parts that I'm going to like the most, because I'm an asshole and I love dumb shit.
I just worry that everybody is going, oh, this is going to be a masterwork. This is going to be so high concept. And then it's going to literally just bludgeon you over the head with all of the allegory that we expected.
Oh, Kojima's work is never a fucking, like... I have heard these arguments before that Metal Gear Solid is artwork. There's so much subtlety behind... You fucking piss on a guy's head! Fuck off!
Yeah, no, like there's definitely like some high points in terms of storytelling and characterization in those games, but then also you have Solid Snake hanging out in a locker masturbating to a poster of a woman inside of the locker.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not all highbrow. And honestly, the auteur theory stuff behind a lot of the cult of Kojima in some ways like does frustrate me at times, even though I am a huge fan of his stuff. And I really, if you're going into this game, do not be clouded by that. Just understand what you're getting yourself into. Know it's going to be weird in some ways, that it's going to be boring in some ways, and that it's going to be touching in some ways. Mm-hmm. And from what I've heard, he also has learned how to write females a little bit better. It's like, here's quiet.
Hi, I got titties.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, you can't get much better than... I mean, you can't go much lower than what Quiet was in that game. So, I'm hoping that he's learned something, but, like, I don't know how much higher that bar is going to be set with this game.
One of the main female characters in this game is named Fragile.
Yeah.
And there's Mama as well.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's because I'm on the outside looking in because I've never played a Kojima game. Yeah, I know, take my gamer license, etc.
No, you're fine.
But like, I mean, it's an interesting take. It's an interesting concept. I don't know how it's gonna translate.
All of the villains in Metal Gear Solid 4 were rehashes of old villains, except they were supermodels that you could also defeat by doing photo shoots with them after you got them down so much on stamina.
Yeah.
What?
Yep.
I watched you play 2 hours of Metal Gear Solid 5.
Mm-hmm.
What was my response to that? It was literally just the fuck did I just watch?
Yeah.
Take that across like 200 hours of 5+ games, and that's Metal Gear Solid. That's the Kojima that we've grown to love.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love Hideo Kojima because some of his work, some parts of it are just utter shit. Just giant swaths of what he puts out is whole-handed garbage. But I will still lick up his scraps because they are tasty scraps with really weird ideas, and seeing just the bizarre in a AAA scenario brings such joy to me that I rarely get to have. So, yeah, I am entirely for it, but anyone who tells you that, you know, oh, you don't get it because this is what art looks like, fuck you. Fuck off.
Dostoevsky, this is not.
But But hey, good news if you do think that Hideo Kojima is the auteur of our generation and one of the most brilliant men. When talking about the game to BBC, he mentioned in future Kojima Productions will also start making films. If a person can do one thing well, they should be able to do anything well. In the next 3 to 4 years, everything will move to streaming. When this happens, movies, TV shows, and games will be competing for the same space.
I do not want to see what would happen if they actually got to make like a real movie.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Like, your games are your movies. Keep making your movies there, please. Like, I just don't know what exactly would happen, and I don't know if I want.
It'll be another Deadly Wake.
I don't want it. I don't want it. I'm good. I'm happy. Okay.
There'll be more about Death Stranding next week, because we'll actually have our hands on it. And
yeah.
I'm sure we'll get another 20 minutes of conversation out of that.
There's going to be a lot of talking, especially me and Brian, and Lindsay is going to go, what the fuck are you talking about? And we're not going to shut the fuck up. That's going to be like an entire goddamn hour worth of content for you, the viewer.
Good or bad, there will be things that need to be said.
All right, let's escape the Kojima verse here. And let's get into some Fortnite news. Thank you, Luke Pluckett of Kotaku. No reason we're choosing a lot of Kotaku-related items this week, primarily. Anyway, Cody Clicks Conrad, the 14-year-old scrappy young boy, was playing a nice round of Fortnite when he got swatted and the police came in and nobody really got hurt. But man, they really could have, because this has gone wrong so many times before. And basically, good job on terrifying a child.
Yeah, I mean, he's the second Fortnite player to be swatted in the past month. So, hooray, great. We're starting to target underage people now with this dumb bullshit.
Yeah, I
mean, obviously, I'm glad he didn't get hurt, but like, I don't know how much more to say on this other than just stop. Just stop with this shit.
I really thought about cutting this one, but the amount of just the fuck are we even doing here when we're talking about getting a 14-year-old child swatted?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about other things. Like King Gothalion moving to Mixer, Twitch is getting a whole lot of large names moving over to the Mixer. Michael, having over 1 million followers, decided to drop Twitch for the Mixer.
I mean, this is interesting in that, like, it continues the trend of people moving from Twitch to Mixer, but this is also coming off of the heels of another fairly large-scale streamer, Courage, leaving Twitch for YouTube on an exclusivity deal that came out over the weekend. Like, I don't know. It's curious to me, like, these exclusivity deals that they're signing. Obviously, they're worth enough money to where they're getting them to pull away from the service that's going to have the largest audience. So I don't know. Like, I still think this is mainly an option for like large scale streamers like Ninja Shroud and King Gothalion. But I mean, Mixer's in it. Mixer's not going away. Like, they've thrown the money in there, and I really hope it pays off for them, because, like, honestly, if this doesn't, like, it could potentially sink that service.
Yeah, I'm gonna
But,
be
I mean,
straightforward with you. I had no fucking clue who a King Gothalion was before I had to take a look into him and his past, and still don't really know who a King Gothalion is, but he is way more of the fuck popular than I am, so what the fuck do I know?
eh.
It's really interesting to see. I think the trend is going to continue where you see these large scale streamers like partners who have millions of subscribers moving over to Mixer. Because moving to Mixer as a Twitch partner where you have over 1,000+ subs means that you can automatically gain partner status on Mixer. You can immediately monetize your channel there. For a smaller scale streamer, moving to Mixer is idiocy. They don't have an affiliate rank. They don't have that halfway step. And like I've looked into the requirements to become partnered on Mixer, and I thought the partnership requirements on Twitch were huge. Mixer makes it look like child's play. To move over from Twitch to Mixer to become a partnered streamer there, you need a minimum of 10,000 followers and subscribers on Twitch. And that's painful. Like, that's flat out painful. But like seeing even Courage moving to YouTube, like a friend of mine that I play Armajet with, he was posting about that today, going, wow, I mean, cool for him for, you know, moving to a new service, but at the same time, I've been a subscriber on Twitch for 17 months straight. And now I have to move over to YouTube for him too. So like it's kind of a kick in the face to some of your long-term subs, but I mean, you do you.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's less about what badges you've made over the years and just kind of, yeah. This is about what the people can make with what they have.
Especially when it comes to such a volatile market like streaming, you know. Like, I don't blame anybody for taking the guaranteed money in this instance, but obviously, like you said, Lens, like small scale streamers, this is not an option for them. And in some ways, it kind of creates this loop of where like you go to Twitch to build up your audience to a certain point, and then you try and get that guaranteed deal somewhere, and then move it over somewhere else. Because I don't know if Twitch is ever going to get into the market of like throwing out like guaranteed contract stuff like this.
Yeah, and that's where Mixer definitely has the edge for the larger scale streamers. Like, oh, you're going to offer me a guaranteed amount to do this. I don't have to worry about one day my subs all just saying, yeah, fuck it, we're done. But I'm sure there's stipulations in their contracts that, you know, you must maintain X numbers in order to keep your contract.
It's also worth noting that Mixer is trying to be more competitive by moving their subscription from $5.99 to $4.99, which also interesting considering they're throwing all of the money at things right now. So, you know, get that money. Anyway, we've got two more articles we're going to hop through really quick to end off the show for today. Just a little bit of a nudge to good old Reggie Fils-Aimé. He has been doing some amazing talks. He's been out there being one of the most lovable guys that you could possibly find. And he's been recognized by the New York Game Awards for his work in the industry. And if you're not following him on Twitter, strongly recommend it because, you know, despite him retiring, he still has so much to say and so many interesting things to really lay out. So much about what to do and not to do in business, especially, is out there for the free. So if you can learn all of that from a man who has been doing this for decades, fucking drop it.
I've always liked Reggie, and I'm really happy to see him get this recognition. And like, I mean, if ever I were to meet him, all I would ask for is a hug because he looks like a very huggable man.
He's a whole lot of man too, so.
Oh yeah, big boy.
And our last but not least, just a follow-up to some of the previous information we dropped before. A lot of the Ubisoft games that have been delayed, Watch Dogs, Rainbow Six, Gods and Monsters, are heading to PS5 and Xbox Scarlet at this point, making them all your multi-plat games rather than just being on the single service. So it'll be interesting to see, because there's going to be so many think pieces of, hey, here's Watch Dogs on the PS4, here's Watch Dogs on the PS5. So, you know it's coming.
Oh, I know. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised that this hadn't been stated already, because like as soon as they announced these games at E3 this last June, like that was kind of the feeling I got. Like obviously these are going to be coming out right in the window of those consoles coming out later later next year. So like yeah, of course these are going to be available on both. Like that just makes the most sense in the world to put these on both. There was something else I had on my mind that I was gonna say, but I forgot now. Oop.
But yeah,
It's all right.
this gives you a little bit more of that next generation hype to look forward to, because then you can see how much better the next generation is, or how little better the next generation is. So I'm looking forward to 2020. We're going to get some good shit out of that year, I think. There's a lot of especially great AAA titles that are going to hit and hit hard next year. So fucking dope shit.
Agreed. I mean, they look good at least, so hopefully they'll hold up to their reputations.
Greetings, John Borgen. I also apologize. This is basically the end of the Mr. Video Games live super show for Monday, November the 4th, 2019. We've handled all of the stories that we have the time, energy, willpower, and stamina to cover. But of course, we cannot end a Mr. Video Game live super show without giving you your Mr. Video Game of the week. The person, place, thing, noun, adjective that has done something so great, so bad, so terrible, so amazing that you can only look at it and go, that is video games. And the winner for November the 4th, 2019, Mr. Shigeru Miyamoto, being recognized by the Japanese government as the person of cultural merit. Each year they announce one person in Japan as their person of cultural merit. And from everything that I've read about Shigeru Miyamoto's introduction, he basically said that, you know, I would love, I am very glad to, and I'm honored by all of these things, but also I have done so little work on my own. Everything that I've made has been a project of love and passion by so many people. But kind of dope that his own government has recognized Mr. Mario himself as a person of cultural merit. So, yeah.
I mean, dude is literally Mr. Video in some ways. So, like, no man fits this honor better.
We kind of wanted to do the wrestler guy, and I'm blanking on names right now, coming out of Sans.
You mean the Kenny Omega?
Dad!
Kenny Omega coming out dressed as Sans to that fucking slapping ass Undertale soundtrack?
That was dope as shit.
Dynamite?
And God,
awesome.
you know Toby Fox had to just cream his own pants watching his own character live out in fucking wrestling. Ah, that's so good, but it felt a little underwhelming to not go, oh my God, but Mr. Miyamoto, Well, we love him. So there you go. Shigeru Miyamoto, you're a good person. Thank you. Thank you for all of my Marios and Zeldas, and we worship you on the ground you work on. Thank you.
He's quite literally now been named a national treasure. Like,
you're not wrong.
I mean, we always knew it. But now it's official. It's on paper, and like him going, it's not just me. It's my teams. Like, that is so adorable and so humble.
By the way, I just want to toss out on a very small scale. Next week, if you have the Epic Game Store downloaded, Nuclear Throne and Ruiner are both free. And two of the fucking best games you'll ever play. Jesus fucking Christ, I don't know how you get both of these games free in 1 week. But, I'm not telling you to buy anything from Epic. But get their fucking free games, because holy shit, those are good games.
Agreed.
Anyway, this has been Mr. Video Games for November the 4th, 2019. I say this so many times. I want to remind everyone, we have a Discord. If you want to follow our Discord, it's down that way, and I've turned off the camera so I can't port it anymore. But yeah, join the fucking Discord. We talk all week during the week about good video game shit. If you give us a story that we didn't notice, we will definitely give you a shout out for being good helper boys and making Mr. Video Games happen each and every week. And we just fucking love talking about these things because we're the most hardcore goddamn nerds that want to talk about video games and music and wrestling and all of the shit behind it. So thank you all for coming. Too many fucking chatting names to talk about this week, and I don't want to make any of you guys feel like sad boys if I don't call you out directly, so I'm not going to this week, but you know who you are, and you're all beautiful, and I love your faces, and I kiss every one of you. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Lindsay, any final words for us this week?
Well, thank you all for coming out and listening to us rant for 2 freaking hours.
And we cut so much! Goddamn!
We did. We cut so many stories this week, guys. More reason to join the Discord. You're going to see all of the stuff that we do end up cutting during the week. And, I mean, our chat was moving so fast today. I had issues keeping up with it. Which is weird for me.
Mm-hmm.
But, as always, love each other, be kind, be the change you want to see in the world, and try to bring a little light into someone's life, okay?
Brian, any final words for our delightful, wonderful, enjoyful-tastic audience this week?
So you can find my words at outsports.com, pacemagazine.com, and various other places. And to find those various other places, you can follow me on Twitter at WonderboyOTM. Also, if I know there's not necessarily a huge crossover between video games and wrestling, despite what Kenny Omega's Halloween costume would throw out there. But if you are into wrestling, I do host a LGBTQ pro wrestling podcast on the Outsports Podcast Network. It is called LGBT in the Ring. It comes out every Thursday. That you can find that on any of your preferred podcast platforms. Just search for Outsports on there and hit that download. It's awesome. And finally, I'll keep coming.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming. I'm Slacker Kite, and I'm also very tired at this point. You can always watch us at youtube.com/CBGP Games. And as always, I want to say to you, Jim Spanfeller is an herb. Good night, and have a pleasant tomorrow.
Bye.